If I listed the filmography of my next guest, we'd run out of time. But you've no doubt seen Alan Ritchson as Aquaman on Smallville. He was in The Hunger Games, Catching Fire, a pair of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles flicks, and in the DC superhero series Titans, to name just a few movies and TV shows. He's a former model, he's a singer, clearly he has so much free time on his hands, as well as the writer, director, producer, and co-star in a brand new film released last week by Lionsgate called Dark Web Cicada 3301. Welcome to the show, Alan. Good to chat with you.
Hey, thanks. Nice to chat with you, too.
Congrats on the new film. Again, for our listeners, it's called Dark Web Cicada 3301. As I mentioned, not only did you direct the film and co-write it, but you star in it as well. Tell us about it.
So Cicada 3301 is based on the real secret society Cicada 3301 and these intriguing scavenger hunt style games that they've played since 2012. People thought for a long time this was like an NSA or CIA recruitment tool. These online games are puzzles and riddles that I think baffle myself and many others. But in the hunt for super geniuses, it seems as though some of the winners have disappeared. So it seemed like good fodder for a movie, and seems to be well received so far.
So I was going to ask you, Alan, about in real life. This was these posted cryptid puzzles on 4chan and social platforms like Twitter. So that obviously inspired you to write this. Tell us about the film.
Yeah, so it's a genre blending film. I mean, it's a drama, but there's moments of action, thrills, and I think people realize pretty quickly it's a comedy, which is, I think, unexpected for this type of movie, and the reason to me why this is so appealing to a broader audience. I personally am not tech savvy enough to make a tech movie that I think can hold people's attention, and I don't know how many people would be into truly the technical aspects of what Cicada 3301 was doing. So to me it was more about the ideas that they preach, and wrestling with those. The part of the game was educating the people playing, which millions of people are aware of Cicada, and many have tried the game. But it was about educating them on their worldviews, the themes are large, the institution versus the individual. What kind of world order should we have? Are we to govern ourselves, or are we to be governed? These are big ideas, and I think they're worth talking about, but I don't think many people want to have that conversation in a sterile 2-hour environment, So to me, to make it a really fun adventure that also dabbles in these concepts is something worth making a movie about, in my opinion. So the comedy helps relieve some of that, some of the tension that technical jargon creates.
Awesome. And the film just debuted. Was it online only? From what I read initially, Lionsgate had purchased it for a digital release. Certainly during COVID, that makes sense. Or is there also a theatrical window?
Yeah, there's as I understand it, there's a limited theatrical window. I don't think it's got a huge rollout, but I'm not sure how that, how these theatrical windows work these days anyway, considering I don't know who's open, but yeah, it's mostly available online. So anywhere people are used to getting their Apple, iTunes, on-demand platforms, I think they can find this.
Okay, yeah, VOD.
Yeah, it's a VOD and then Blu-ray on the 16th of March. So we'll see if it heads towards a streaming fate eventually, but not on the Netflix side or Amazon side of things yet.
All right. Since this show is about tech, Alan, I know you said you're not super techie, but do you like gadgets, video games? Do you play around with apps?
I do. It's a point of contention in my house because my wife is somebody who she'd be fine with like a Motorola Razr, like as long as it flips and it turns on, I can still hear my mom when I talk to her. She'd be cool with that, I, on the other hand, I think like a lot of guys just really love the advancements that technology makes and want to, I just want to keep up with it and keep the phones fresh, But the tools that I use are mostly related to film. You kind of have to have the latest hardware to keep up with the software these days. And editing, and editing suites and pre-production, post-production. The tools are pretty amazing these days, but it requires a huge amount of hardware. So I've got like all the gadgets, and I'm grateful for that. But I don't play a lot of games, I'm just more tool oriented, like I've created I've created kind of for myself, what I would consider like a freestanding app out of something like GoodNotes for creating a storyboard shot list hybrid. Like I like creating those kind of tools for myself that just work for what I do. But outside of that, I mean, I don't. I'm no coder.
Okay, I got it. Unlike the character that you play in the film, I think he is a hacker. Is that right?
So I played this character, Agent Carver, who is a bumbling, kind of dim-witted NSA agent, on the trail of Cicada 3301. And in the film, the premise is that the government really wants in to this organization that they can't get in, and they want to put a stop to these ideas. And so they use Connor Black, this genius from the wrong side of the tracks, who's able to figure this kind of stuff out. He stumbles upon this organization, is intrigued, starts chasing them down, and the government decides he's the way in. And so they try and force him into it and use him as a tool to get inside. And a lot of that came from speculation during the games that this is what was really happening, that the government was trying to use some of these individuals to figure out who exactly was behind this and what they really wanted. So sort of loosely inspired by the real events. But yes, the character Connor Black, who is tech savvy, much more tech savvy than I am. Thank God I had Google up and running while writing this thing. I've been working on an app idea. It's a platform to connect producers to talent directly. In my business, it's there's this middleman of agents or representatives that often make it very difficult for people, even well-funded, well-resourced projects, to connect to talent that would otherwise probably like to know about offers coming in or that kind of thing. It's difficult. So I'm creating a platform for these people, and in working on that, I've got brilliant minds around me, thank God, and they're like, okay, so drop into GitHub and let's go over some of this code real quick. And I'm like, I don't know what the hell you guys are talking about. Like, can I just show you a picture of what I want? You make that pretty picture. Like, there's so much to the technical side of things that I realize the more involved I get in it, the less I know. So that's kind of where I am. But for anybody who's into this kind of thing, I think we did a good job of honoring the truth and the technical specifications of this. My brother's a software engineer, and I sent him the script before we shot it. And I said, can you just make sure I'm not making a fool of myself? Do I have it right? And he was like, actually, I'm really surprised. Like, you got it. You got it. I mean, there's one or two little super technical things, but, we finagled those, and he was happy.
Card-carrying geeks like yours truly, pocket protector and all, we're not easy on films and movies that and TV shows that get it wrong. We're pretty vocal, but it's great. I'm excited to see the flick. Again, we are chatting with Alan Ritchson. He is the star, co-writer, director, and producer behind a new film, Dark Web Cicada 3301. We're learning about the film as well as his technical expertise outside of the movie, or lack thereof, as he's claiming. Are you an iPhone or an Android guy?
iPhone all day.
By extension, are you a Mac?
I mean, it just works. It just works. Yeah, of course. The whole ecosystem. Although, look, I mean, I think there are issues with it, and I would love to have some, things a little more open source. But are you an Android carrier?
Yeah, actually, because I'm a geek. I like getting in there and changing everything. Yeah. Like I'm like, don't tell me what mail program to use. And, I want to do multitasking. I want to have a video playing on the top half of my phone and a web browser open on the bottom half. But with iPhone, it's a lot trickier. Getting better. Their stuff just works. I get it. It's a graceful operating system. And I hear you. And so you write your scripts on a Mac.
Yeah, but that's it. I mean, for all the tools, I mean, you were heading there. All the tools that we have in our industry are Apple related. Yeah. I mean, they're, sort of the first iteration of all the best apps for screenwriting or for whatever. I mean, it just seems like they're all generated for the Apple user first, and then the ecosystem grows. But I realized I was sort of crippled because my some director friends, they were like, oh, just use this for overheads. I'm like, well, that's not available on the Android. Like, I don't have access to that.
I hear you.
So I was an Android user for a long time, but just in my specific industry, it seems like it works better that way. By the way, I think the real important work here is figuring out how to modernize the pocket protector joke, because you
I know, right?
admit, You are a card-carrying pocket protector. But I think I think today it's like a wrist guard. Would a wrist guard be like
or
a proper...
the modern equivalent of the pocket protector option. I got to figure that out. That's hilarious. Before we wrap up, Alan, would you prefer your work in front of the camera or behind it?
I'm grateful for the work that I've had in front of the camera. I'm heading into a new show, Jack Reacher, which is something I'm honored to be able to bring to life, a character that iconic. And, I love that work. I do. But I personally deeply enjoy being behind the lens. For me, it's just a creative thing. I mean, you mentioned in your intro, which I appreciate, you mentioned modeling. I haven't done that in a long time, but when I was young, that was a career for me, and it was sort of my way out of my hometown, But that's an industry that keeps you silent. I mean, they don't want to hear, they just want to send your body around to cities for photographers to look at, and you're really just a hunk of meat that they're sharing from town to town. I don't like the industry. For me, having come from that kind of background where you're told, please don't say anything, just stand there, to not be a part of the creative process is tricky. And acting is very similar in that sense. You're the last link in the creative chain. The story's been written. The film has been funded and financed. There are a lot of executives involved. They've gotten all the crew hired. They've picked the location. And then it's like, okay, now let's bring the actor in, fly him in, have him say the lines. And so when you show up sometimes and you're like, actually, this doesn't feel very honest to me. I mean, I would probably say something more like this. They're like, I've had it said to me, it's baked crispy hard at this point. Don't try and change it now. And that was always hard for me to hear because I'm like, well, I think there's a better idea there. Nobody asked and nobody's asking, So to be behind the lens means for me, having some say creatively, and I think everybody thinks their ideas are the best, but I just think that I have something to contribute as far as whatever my creative voice is. So I prefer being behind the lens, being at the start of those conversations.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah.
We were able to do both, which is fantastic. Evident by Dark Web, Cicada 3301, which again, I'm excited to see. Congratulations on the launch and all the best. Have a great spring. Stay healthy.
Thanks so much. You too.